Welcome. Congratulations to the Community First Grant Class of 2024-25. I'm Nikki. I am a mom, a storyteller, and a foodie. I've been with Whole Foods Market for over or close to 18 years, and I lead right now communications for Whole Foods Market Foundation. So on behalf of our entire team, we're so excited to have new team members join us for part of the Community First Grant program this year, along with returning team members. So thank you all for everything you do to help expand fresh, healthy food access in your local communities. Once again, take a moment to introduce yourself, which I think you already have, and we will get started. All right, so today's agenda will include a quick intro of our team, an update on the grant process, how to support your organization if you end up transferring stores, tips for growing healthy partnerships and engaging your fellow team members, along with an overview of how you can use a Whole Foods Community Connection event to satisfy a Community First Grant volunteer opportunity for team members. And then we'll make sure to leave plenty of time at the end for any questions. You can either use the raise your hand feature if you want to come off mute or put those questions in the chat for us. All right, so here is the team. You have either hopefully had interactions with most of us, or you will be interacting with us in the coming year. We're so excited to support you throughout this coming grant year. And if you ever don't know who the right person to go to is for help, you can just email foundation@wholefoods.com and we'll make sure to get you to the right person. So with that, I will pass it over to Michelle to talk more about our upcoming timeline.
There we go. Working with WebEx. Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Ferris. I am the Whole Cities Program Manager here at the Whole Foods Market Foundation. And I am going to discuss where we are at in terms of the Community First Grant application process. And then just touch briefly on some reporting requirements for team members and community partners, and then discuss what happens if you need to transfer your partnership to another team member. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. So back in June, we received, I believe it was 92 nominations, team member nominations. Woo, that was a big year, big year. Of those, we invited 80 organizations to apply, and that happened in late July. The deadline for that application was August 26th. We gave some stragglers an extended an extension. But ultimately we ended up with 73 out of 80 applications, which is really great. We're currently in the process of reviewing those applications, and we expect to notify community partners sometime in mid-October. And when that happens, we're going to go ahead and let the team members, the partnered team members, know as well. I wanted to encourage everyone, even if their community partner is not selected, to go ahead and maintain your relationship with that community partner, continue to build that relationship with that community partner. Just because they are not ready this year, for whatever reason, doesn't mean that they won't be ready next year. And it really does make a huge difference to these organizations that rely on our sweat equity to help make things happen. So just a little food for thought. So throughout the grant year, for those that are selected, we are going to ask team members to submit 2 very quick updates on how things are going with your community partner. And it's very brief. It just lets us know, like, what are some challenges? What are some successes? Do you have the support you need? If you don't, what support do you need? And those roll out as a mid-year update. And that mid-year update is usually in the spring, and then and that one is going to be required. The final report is due usually in late summer, and that's going to be an optional. And even though it is optional, I really do encourage you to try and participate in that final report, because it really does give us kind of a global perspective on how the partnership really went throughout the year. So I just want to encourage you to go ahead and submit the final report as well. We are also going to ask our community partners to submit 2 reports, and they're kind of along the same veins. We're basically asking them to tell us how the partnership is going, what challenges have they had, what successes have they had. And although the audience is different, the goals are the same. we are basically just trying to understand whether it's the team member, the community partner, understand their experience, what's working for you guys, what's not working for you guys, with the overarching goal of just improving the program, making it as supportive and accessible and as awesome as possible. It, even if you're not in a reporting period, I would highly encourage you, if you want to share updates with us. As far as if you have a volunteer event with your community partner, if it went well, if you took photos, if you have a narrative you want to share, we love to hear and see those things. I get those in my inbox every once in a while, and it's really a delight to see the team members just kind of send ad hoc updates on what's going on with their partner. You can also, if you would like, be featured in one of the editions of Dig In. It's our team member newsletter. And if you wanted to send in those updates, you can always send them into, and it's the email that Nikki mentioned before, foundation@wholefoods.com. And yes, thank you. Next slide. Okay, so life happens. There are times, for whatever reason, sometimes you are transitioning to another opportunity outside of Whole Foods, you're transferring stores, or just your personal life precludes any other commitments you might have outside of work. We are here for that. We are here to support that. We totally understand. One thing you can do to help us and your partner organization is submit a CFG team member transfer form. So what will happen is the new team member, the backup team member, and this is the team member that would have been identified in the team member nomination back in June, would go ahead and submit that transfer form. I would suggest reaching out to them beforehand. Don't just shoot them an email with the link. Oftentimes I have found that the backup team members also have a lot going on in their lives. Sometimes they're available for that, sometimes they're not. If you can touch base with them beforehand and explain what's going on, and if they're not available, you can work with your STL to find the right person. I think the goal is just to make sure that there is a seamless transition between team members and that our community partners feel supported and they're able to benefit not just from the Community First Grant Award, but also, again, from that sweat equity, those volunteer events where we get a bunch of team members together to help our community partners really mean a great deal. And we really want to make sure that they're able to take full advantage of that support. The form is linked in our August CFG newsletter, and we're going to continue to link it in all of the coming newsletters. So if you ever need to reference it, that would be the place. Also, you're welcome. If you can't find it, you don't have the time to shoot an email to that, or shoot an email to that earlier email address. That's foundation@wholefoods.com, and we're happy to send the link as well. That's all I've got. I'm going to pass it over to Diana, and she's going to talk about how to build strong partnerships and relationships.
Thanks, Michelle. Hello, everybody. If we haven't met, I'm Diana Purcell, and I am the Director of Programs for Whole Cities, and been on the team for about 10 years and always love meeting new Community First Grant team members and seeing familiar faces come back every year. So I'm going to jump into ways to build strong partnerships. So the first tip is not to wait. So we hope that each of you will be involved with your partner regardless of their grant status, as Michelle has already talked about a little bit about in earlier, and that you started to line up your volunteer opportunities now. Now is a great time. The fall is really busy on farms and in gardens, so nonprofits are always looking for support. If your partner isn't accepted for a grant in October, you'll continue to be invited to these calls, receive our emails, and be a part of this program. Of course, you can opt out at any time if you'd rather not hear from us, but we would love for you to be along for the ride. The next tip is to look for guidance in our Community First principles. So these principles were created as guideposts to developing healthy relationships, and there are two that I really want to highlight if you're working with a partner for the first time. So the first is meeting the needs and reflecting the desires of the community. Sometimes when we enter a community or neighborhood that we're not a part of, and even if we have a lot of experience with the volunteer activity that we'll be doing, we might lack the context that's needed to contribute positively. So leave those assumptions behind and try to enter any new space with humility and an appetite to learn, and be curious about your partner's goals, challenges, and what they're looking for, as it might not always be what you would assume. The second principle I wanted to mention is to always deliver what we promise, do not promise what we can't deliver. You don't have to be at the garden every day to be a good volunteer. You really just have to align the needs of your partner with your availability and make sure to communicate when and if that changes. It's better to start off with a small commitment and build trust rather than overcommitting and have to pull back when things get busy. Final tip is around goal setting. So you all submitted fantastic goals during the nomination period. You've been thinking about it. And I would challenge you uh, to spend 5 minutes reviewing your goals. You can see them in Submittable, and start making them as smart as possible. So if you aren't familiar with it, the SMART method is a tool that you can use to plan and achieve goals. So ask yourself if your goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So you can see down there. For example, instead of having a goal that you want to help the organization as much as possible, you could set a goal to volunteer every Saturday, once a month on a Saturday, and engage 5 new team members each time. We do ask that Community First Grant team members commit to volunteering with their partner organizations at least once a quarter. And those quarters are different from the calendar year quarters. So in Community First Grant, those are from August through October, and November through January, February through April, and May through July. So write your goals down, somewhere you'll see it, and bonus points if you share it with your leadership. That's a great way to keep them in the loop so they can support you while holding yourself accountable. As you know that the year can get busy, so setting goals can help you stay on track and celebrate your accomplishments. Now I will pass it over to Mireya to talk about how team members can get other team members engaged at your location and touch base on Whole Foods Community Connections program.
Hi everyone, my name is Mireya and I am likely meeting all of you for the first time. I joined Whole Foods Market Foundation about a month ago, but I have been with Whole Foods Market for a little over 8 years. I actually started as a cashier in the Midwest, but I am now the Team Member Engagement Program Manager for the foundation. And I am so excited to get to know and work with all of you, and most importantly, be a resource. So please don't hesitate to let me know if there is anything that you might need. First, I want to chat about ways to engage with team members at your location. Our first tip to loop in your leadership and other team members is surprise about communication. Each one of your STLs, FTLs, or TLs submitted a letter of support for your nomination. They want to help, so keep them up to date about your progress and let them know if you need support, such as dedicating space in your back of house, to post volunteer opportunities, or updates at a store meeting. Another good idea would be to find your culture champion ambassador in store to brainstorm ways that you can share your updates and share stories or appreciations on Interview Connect. And as always, our team is here to support you. So if you're ever thinking to yourself, it'd be great if I had blank to help me share info with fellow team members, then please do not hesitate to let us know. We're here to help, and if we can create something for you, then we will. And it would also give us the opportunity to share your fantastic idea with other Community First Grant team members. Our next tip is to make volunteering easy. Make sure to check out the CFG team member resources page we have on our website for volunteer sign-up templates and much more. Post volunteer sign-up sheets in locations where team members will see it, like near time clocks and break rooms. Communicate the opportunity as early as you can and provide all the relevant info like the organization's work, address, time and date, max number of team members, description of the activity, what to bring, transportation plans, and a date of phone number to call. Finally, appreciate those that are involved in huddles via email or on Interview Connect. Take photos of team members volunteering and share those out, with permission, of course, with your store. Our team would also love to see those photos and celebrate in the Dig In newsletter. We will be sending out your support kit packages the second week of October. The kits will be shipped to the address included in your team member nomination form. If you do not receive your package by the end of October, definitely let our team know. Inside the box, you'll find a Community First Principles poster, a team member volunteer sign-up sheet, as well as a variety of swag. We encourage you to share some of the extra swag in your box, like the t-shirts and bandanas, with team members that have gone above and beyond to support. Unfortunately, the shirts are not approved through the Whole Foods Market dress code to wear in store, but they are great for volunteer days and for photos. Now switching gears, we're going to talk about Whole Foods Community Connections. Earlier this year, Whole Foods Market launched Community Connections, and while this sounds similar to the Community First Grant, it is a separate program. So let's discuss each of the programs and then look at how the two programs can complement each other. The Community First Grant program is a program supported by Whole Cities, a project of Whole Foods Market Foundation. where team members nominate organizations that are working to improve food access in local communities for a Community First grant. It's why we're all here today. Team members that nominated an organization to receive a Whole Cities Community First grant and are selected are expected to volunteer at least quarterly with their partner. This time is voluntary and unpaid. Then we have Whole Foods Community Connection. This program is supported by Whole Foods Market and not supported directly by Whole Foods Market Foundation or Whole Cities. The goal of this program is to support team building events at each location. This can vary from visiting a local supplier, a recycling or composting provider, or volunteering at a local nonprofit. Each location is budgeted to allow for these events and account for team member labor as a paid volunteer event. Now, while these are two separate programs, there can be some overlap with volunteering and holding a Community Connections event. A Community First grant team member may use a Community Connection event to satisfy the quarterly volunteer requirement, which then would allow for team members to be paid for volunteering. If you are interested in hosting Community Connections event to support your volunteer requirement for your Community First grant partner, and of course confirming with your partner that they are interested and staff to host a larger volunteer event, then talk to your STL to get their approval and have them submit an event request. All parameters for Community Connections must be met to receive approval. And if for whatever reason your volunteer event is not approved by your STL or does not meet all the parameters for a Community Connections event, you are still expected to volunteer in that quarter with your nominated partner, and your time and the time of any team member will also be unpaid. Also, please keep in mind that each location can have up to 3 Community Connections events per year, but team members are expected to volunteer with their Community First grant partner at least once a quarter between August 2024 and July 2025. All right, now that is a lot of info in a short amount of time. So let's open it up for any questions or suggestions that you may have. Feel free to raise your hand and we can take you off mute or utilize the chat. We will also be planning to send out a recording of this call and the slides that you'll have those in your inbox soon.
Awesome. Rondo's saying she's going to ask about the poster. So yes, one of those will be in your kits. We also have designed new hats and shirts for this year. So please send us feedback if y'all like them, if you don't. We're always wanting to know what y'all like. Looks like Robert has his hand raised. So let me see if I can unmute you. We're going to find out. I'm unmuting you, Robert.
Yay, all good?
Yay, there we go, success.
Cool, look at that. 2 things, I guess. So one, do you know of any team members that have had a lot of success with getting volunteers from their store to their community partner? I struggle with that a lot in my location, just with the volunteers that we set up normally, where I might have like 1 or 2 people that want to go. And not that I'm very grateful that someone signs up, but when we do a Community Connections, I get, 14, 15 people because they're getting paid and then they enjoy giving back so much. I'm just curious if you know of anyone or if you have any tips or tricks on like how to drive engagement, getting people to spend some time outside the store volunteering.
That's a great question.
We
Go ahead, Diana.
I was going to say, we actually have a team member on the call who is very good at getting team member engagement. Denise, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Denise has been kind enough to actually speak at least one of our events about exactly this. So Denise, would you mind giving some of your best tips and tricks?
And I can unmute you, but I don't want to just automatically unmute you if you're not ready. If you want to put in the chat, Denise, if you want to say some things, I can unmute you. I feel like that's too powerful to like just go unmute somebody when they're not ready. Or raise your hand if that's a yes. Yay, unmute. Okay, Denise, unmuting you. Maybe. There we go. Might be that you can unmute yourself now. There we go.
Hi, I think I'm unmuted.
You are. We can hear you.
Yay!
Success.
Okay, well, in the past, I found like the best way to get team members engaged is first, talk about it, share it with everybody in the store, first and foremost. Second, get those emails out to team members. And also, I even took it a little bit further and took it to outside of our store, to a couple of other neighboring stores, to ask them if they were interested in joining us. I gave them all of the dates for the year that we were planning, or for the season that we were planning, and asked team members to, if they are, if they can join us. And it kind of spread. Also, I was able to post our pictures and fun stuff on Interview Connect, and Connect was a great way. I always post every as an event, every volunteer opportunity that we're having. I post it as an event on Connect, so team members are aware of it. I also put posters up all over the back of the house, so team members know, and then help, spread the word that way. But one of the best ways to do it is to literally talk one-on-one with team members. When they see your passion and they can join in on it too, that makes them want to be a part of it. And I find that that's been a really highly engaging thing. I do have to add to what I think it was Robert had said before, had brought up with the community connections. We kind of had a little bit of in the beginning, a little bit of a misstep on how things are working with volunteering and community connections and keeping them separate, which is easy now. We're very, very clear on when each of those are happening, but it, this year has been a little bit tougher for us to have team members here, because we've kind of come up with a couple of little blocks with just having having low head counts, so that we don't have a lot of team members to be able to come out of the store. Also, having new stores open, so we have our really engaged team members are going to another store to help with their opening. We had that on Long Island this year, which was really exciting, but hard to, coordinate. And that's been our biggest thing, is our biggest challenge this year as opposed to previous years. But we're very enthusiastic for next year. I think also next year we should be getting a new culture champion, community ambassador, and that'll really help. And he's actually our one who's going to be doing it at Manhasset, is here with us. But those are the biggest tips, is just being, like Diana, you were saying, being organized, communicate as early as possible, and get the word out to as many people, and share pictures and your enthusiasm. That's really it. Thank you.
That's awesome, Denise. As always, thank you for the brilliant thoughts. Justin did also put in the chat, I think Robert saw it, but just saying for the recording as well, trying to get your store trainer involved, and having them help to spread the information and pictures and culture, and Culture Champion on Interview Connect is another great way as well. Oh, Denise, were you saying something else? Here, let me unmute you again. This WebEx is very interesting. One other thing that I know that team members, if you go to store leadership, I don't know what their budgets are like now, but sometimes they might be able to get snacks that you can take there, or some type of incentive for the team members who come and volunteer as well. So Adrian, you have your hand up. I'm going to unmute you just to give you fair warning, or it looks like you unmuted. Yay, go for it.
Yeah, I was just, hi, also, hello everyone. I was curious, what could be some of the reasons why organizations are commonly maybe told no for their application? Like when you are going to volunteer and you want to still keep that connection with them, but maybe they're asking that question that's I don't know, maybe I can help shine light if that was to happen.
I can start, and then Michelle, if you want to jump in if I miss anything. That's a really great question. So
Okay.
the number one reason that organizations don't receive funding for this grant is usually their programming veers too much towards hunger alleviation rather than long-term healthy food access. And while they are related, and a lot of our partners do work across the spectrum, Whole Cities is really focused on that long term. So making sure that participants of a program have a say in their food access in some way. So sometimes an organization we will invite them thinking that it's unclear, or we think that they are focused on long term, and sometimes their work is just not aligned enough for us to partner with. There are, of course, other reasons. And one thing I will say is when we reach out to the applicants, and if we are not going to fund them, we always offer the opportunity to have a call and discuss what those reasons are, because we want to make sure that we know people put a lot of work into the application, and we want to make it as useful for them as possible. And so just so that you know, that's always something that we offer. Michelle, anything you'd like to add?
Another reason, or something we might see is, so when we get the team member nominations, oftentimes that obviously that information is coming from the team member, and it's not always clear on the community partners website exactly what their offerings are. Sometimes they have programs that look like might be eligible that aren't, and sometimes they have programs that look like they're not eligible, but they are. And so that really kind of comes to the fore during the application process, because that's coming directly from the community partner. An example of that would be a community partner that primarily serves youth 16 and younger. So we are only going to fund projects that serve youth anywhere from 16 to 24, and then adults and above. And so, you know, if they submit a project, for example, that's targeting school children, that is something that, you know, can be funded through Whole Kids, but isn't in alignment with our eligibility criteria. And if they aren't able to come up with a project that fits within the eligibility criteria that targets an age range that is eligible, then that would be one of the reasons that the application wouldn't move forward. So it's just little things like that. And again, you know, there is a substantial amount of back and forth. Like, we have had folks submit projects that on their face didn't seem eligible, and they were able to divert those funds to another offering that they already do that was eligible. So that happens more often than not, but sometimes in very limited circumstances, they're just not able to pivot because they just don't have the program offering available.
Okay, I do have another question. Whole Kids has that B grant that they recently kind of shed light on, which is great. And I was curious if the Whole Cities partner that I nominated and then potentially can they also go for that kind of that subgroup for the grant? That's all good, all fine.
Which was your partner?
At Simon's Community Garden. So they do a
Got it.
youth garden experience. I think maybe 1 or 2 days out of a month. And I know that they have a couple of kids that show up. So if they were able to build a little bee nest and find education around that, I was just curious if we were able to do both or apply for them with that.
I'm going to let Diana speak to that. I'm actually not sure about that particular question.
Jump in.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Nikki.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, there's no rule against us funding Whole Kids and Whole Cities funding the same organization. We have funded actually several organizations that have both programming for youth and adults. In terms of the eligibility for their B grants, I would say the best avenue is to contact the Whole Kids team, and you can do that through foundation@wholefoods.com, and we can get you over to them, just so that, because they know their eligibility the best, and I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you.
I will say, since I support Whole Kids as well, but we just finished a webinar. So if you go to our B Grant page on the wholekidsfoundation.org site, there are recordings for webinars there and eligibility that you can send to your partner just so they can get a little bit more information. But yes, reach out to that foundation@wholefoods.com, and we can get you to the team if you have specific questions.
Okay, thank you.
I did want to add, Denise, as I cut her off, muted her again. She was going to add to make sure to get involved with your STL, ASTLs, culture champion ambassadors, store trainers, get all of, everyone involved that you can, and to make sure you have everything available for the team members and letting them know that, like, we'll have water, snacks, food, anything that you can offer as well could help get that volunteer turnout. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. If you do need to jump off, that is totally fine. We will stay and hang out. If you have more questions, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. But we'll just thank you all for your time. We know that everyone is super busy with all the things at the stores and in your personal life. So thank you just for being involved in the Community First Grant Program, for nominating an organization, and for your passion to get involved. So thank you all so much. Robert, great question. Will we ever see a Whole Cities enamel pen like the Culture Champion one? Great question. We are actually just now working with TMS on getting some Whole Foods Market Foundation wearables approved for in-store. A pen is not on there, but we're hoping to get some other things. But if we get enough feedback that people want an enamel pen, we might be able to champion for that. So always send us that feedback of what you'd like to see in store. We need to go through the right avenues and work with TMS to make sure they're all approved to wear in store. But hopefully you should be seeing some wearables coming out, hopefully by the end of this year for the foundation. Awesome. Thank you all so much. Once again, reach out to us, foundation@wholefoods.com, if you have any questions. I know it always happens. You end the call and you're like, or anything along the way. We're here to support. Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Hope everyone has a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.